Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Uh, Today we're going to talk about House of the Dragons episode 8, which I watched last night. Um, I'm really am captivated by this show. I did not know that it was going to be as good as it is turning out to be. At first, I thought it was just, well, you like Game of Thrones, so here's just some more content, and I was fearful that it would have the mainstream message that Hollywood has been dishing out lately. It is far from that. It is even far from Game of Thrones. In my opinion, it's better than Game of Thrones. Episode 8 for me was a blessing. I really think this show is a gem. And by this, I mean I like it a lot more than the first 3 or 4 seasons of Game of Thrones. It is really well done. Every scene has a purpose. The actors, the ensemble cast really is good, to my surprise. I mean, how can I say this? I thought that the person that was playing Damon was going to draw in a lot of people, and I thought that he would be the only star of the show. And after the first episode, I was amazed that the king and all the other characters were able to carry the show as well. But we're approaching the end of the first season. I think there's like 2 episodes left to this. I have not read the books. I'm just watching the show as a regular person I mean, apart from everything else that's on TV now, I didn't know if this was good in contrast to everything else that I was watching that I found to be bad. But no, this show stands by itself. It is a work of art. The actors are great. The storytelling is amazing. The King's arc in this season is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, you take this character and you're rooting for him. He's not perfect. He's a human being. He's the king. He wants his family to get along. He's trying to do the right thing, but he makes a lot of mistakes, you know. But you're really rooting for this guy. And every you understand his emotions, what he's going through in every scene that they put on screen. You understand what the human behind the king is going through, what he's living, how he's feeling, his emotions. It's I didn't cry in this episode, but emotionally I got attached to it. And to me, that is a wonderful surprise to be able to I'm not a young person, so to get emotionally attached to characters is not something that happens to me every day. And this show, this episode, how can I say? They could have ended the series with this episode. I mean, they could have ended it here. I would have been super happy about it. I would have had a full story of this king, what he went through, what he lived through. It would have been just amazing to end it here. It's not ending here. Luckily, we're still getting 2 episodes, I think, this season. And there might be, a season 2, a season 3, maybe a season 4. I don't know how much material is in there for several seasons, but it is, to me, it's dear to my heart, the show. And it's a surprise. I wasn't expecting this. It's just how I feel about this show and why I need to talk about it. If you haven't watched it, please watch it. I'm at the point where I'm wondering if I would have preferred binge watching the show instead of, watching it one episode a week, because it's a pain having to wait several days for the next episode. But I don't know if it's part of the experience of this show to have you linger and think about what you've seen, what you've absorbed, because there's a lot of small things. I haven't read the books, so there's a lot of little things in this show that I I think it's building to something else, and I don't know yet. So, also, I did not know how I wanted to go about talking about this show, if I was going to do an in depth review of every scene within the episode, but I think I'll just glance through some things here and there throughout the show without going in depth at every scene, like I've said, mentioned here. But a lot of things in this show, my brain is still trying to absorb a lot of what I've watched last night. So if you don't mind, here might be a few spoilers. So if you haven't watched the show, stop the video here. Just go and watch it. It's eye candy. It's not only eye candy. It's beautiful to watch. The story is amazing. Just bear with me here, because I'm not used to doing these reviews or whatnot. But easily give this show, I don't want to give it a 10 out of 10. That's too easy. But it's easily a 9 out of 10 shows that I've liked in these past couple of 2 or 3 years. So let's get into it, you know. Okay, so let's get into this show here. Uh, it starts off that, sorry if I don't know all the names of these characters, but this is the queen's sister. She has an estate of her own, and she has not seen her husband in several, I think it's 6 years now that have passed since the last episode. So she hasn't seen her husband, who's been off to war or fighting a battle, or something's going on in the kingdom. And the king's brother's like, well, what do we do here? Uh, my brother's been mortally wounded, apparently. He may not survive the journey back home, and he wants the throne for himself. He thinks that he's next in line for the throne, and the queen here, or the princess, or the, I don't know how they call this, but she's sitting on the throne, so I will call her a queen even though she's a princess. And so there's an argument here going on of who's going to inherit the estate. And obviously, the daughter here would be next in line to inherit it, but he's like, no, I'm the brother, it should come to me. So this is going to set up the episode where, I mean, Rhaenyra was married to her son, which theoretically the throne would go to, but as we saw in the last episode, there was this montage, this ruse that he was killed, even though he's not. But here, the mother doesn't know that her son's actually alive and decided to start a new life somewhere else in the world. She thinks he's dead, therefore, would it go to Rhaenyra as she was his wife and also the future queen of the kingdom? And so they're setting up, they're going to have to go to King's Landing to resolve this issue, to have the king resolve this internal bickering. So, on to the next scene where Daemon goes into the dragon's lair and takes out these three eggs. I don't know if these three eggs are going to be hatched for his own kids, or are these the three eggs that Daenerys will find in Game of Thrones that she will inherit her three dragons? I don't know. Like I said, I haven't read the books, but they're talking about three eggs, and I remember that Daenerys in the Game of Thrones had three eggs. So I just wanted to point this out before we head on to King's Landing. Here we are, the king. I'm surprised. I have to talk about this. In the very first episode, it was kind of insinuated that the throne was poisoned and he cut himself and he might not be living that long. But turns out that 8 episodes later, he's on his dying bed here, but he survived. He went through I think it's 20 years now since the first episode. So if he was poisoned, it took a long time to dwell him in, but he is on his deathbed. It's not going good for this king, and I don't like seeing him this way. Nobody likes to see a family member go through this kind of stuff. So yeah, it starts pulling you in. You've seen throughout the first 7 episodes up to this one his journey, and to see him like this, it's heart wrenching. I mean, I didn't shed a tear because it is a show, but it's playing on my emotions here. So yeah, not poisoned, or if he was poisoned and he caught a certain disease, we don't. I haven't actually figured out what it is that he has and why it's taken so long to make its way. But yeah, I like this. This tree, we've seen it throughout Game of Thrones. I really like this tree. I don't know what it's called. I just wanted to put this in here that I'm always happy to see this tree on screen every once in a while. And so we're in King's Landing, and the future queen is talking to her, I guess, aunt, since she is the king's sister. And she's like putting out an olive branch that, let's unite our families. Let's try to mend bridges. She is doing, like, trying to do her duty. She knows that her aunt is blaming her for the disappearance or the death of her son and all of this. It's not a rosy situation, but she's still trying to mend bridges, and she proposes the marriage of their children to unite the family here, which it's the proposal is turned down on the moment here, but later on in the show, she kind of agrees to it. It is going to resolve a certain situation here. So the hand, since the king is so sick, the hand's been running the show, been running the kingdom. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes and everybody has their agenda here. That's his. He wanted the power. It was evident since the beginning. And so he's sitting on the throne and he's going to resolve this situation, which he's going to try to resolve what favors his grasp on the power here. But then along comes a king. I mean, this is in these 2 minutes where he walks up to his throne. I mean, this king is sick, and to see him struggle and walk through the throne room is so powerful. this show has been able to put in a message in there, and even though this king is old, he's sick, he's weak, you can still feel his strength throughout the show, you know. He's a very strong-willed person, and it comes across. It's really nice to see how it's done. It's really well done. He's disfigured. We've known that since the previous scene there, where he was sick in bed and a bandage across half of his face. He's struggling, but he's got so much, like I said, willpower in this scene that it draws you into this character. And it was also nice to see his brother help him onto the throne as he's having a hard time. He even drops his crown. And I do want to add here that Matt Smith here, who plays Damon, he doesn't have very many lines, but his presence, his facial expression transmits a very strong message throughout the show so far. I mean, he's a character, few words, but his presence on the screen every single time just draws you in again, you know. So, on to the next scene here. And the king is like, why are we bickering? This situation was supposed to be resolved. He doesn't understand why everybody's bickering and trying to grab power left, right, and center here. And then we have the brother trying to make his case to why he should inherit his estate. And so she explains, well, yes, it's supposed to be settled. I don't know why we're here. I mean, my husband wanted this for our family, and, you know, he's angry, bickering, and he's, you know, in a way, he's kind of right, because Rhaenyra's children are bastards and whatnot, but still, for the sake of the kingdom, you do not go and speak these things in public, which he does here, you know. He calls the kids bastards. He calls the future queen of the kingdom a whore. I mean, this is not going to end well for him at all. And the king obviously loves his family, and nobody can say this. It was already We've already been through a scene like this where he does not want anybody to speak in public of this. He loves his family, and that's the bottom line. Whether they're bastards or not, they are still Rhaenyra's children, and it makes it his grandkids. They are family, they are blood, and he gets up and pulls a knife, wanting to cut off the tongue. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I mean, Damon beat him to the punchline and just whacks his head off. It was a beautiful scene to see. So, I mean, the king is here after the scene where it's resolved. The kids are going to get married. They are going to inherit the estate should anything happen if he doesn't make it. If, he dies out of his wounds. So, anyways, all he wants is his family to get along, and here's a supper after the throne scene. And you see it, he's dying, he's trying to convey a message to the rest of his family that he just wants everybody to get along. We're family, we're blood. Even though half blood or whatnot. He just really wants his family to stick together. And I admire his position in this show. His character was done absolutely great. Not everybody gets along here, and I'll get into that in a few seconds here. But, he wants to show his family's real face. He's not just a king, he's a human being. And in sickness, we're human, we're not perfect. And, any one of us can go through diseases and whatnot. And how important it is for family values and family to stick together. That's what he goes through this scene. He just wants everybody, his family, to come together. And I admire this. He's been such a good king, not a perfect king, but throughout these episodes, he's proven time and time again that this, in my opinion, is one of the most beloved characters of this. I don't know if I should call it a show, a franchise, but he's one of the best characters to come out of this. So, and his daughter, Rhaenyra here, is trying to again offer an olive branch to the rest of the family and to the king's wife, which is the queen. And she, compliments the queen, being behind, having stayed with the king through the sickness. You know, Nowadays, couples would break up as soon as something like this would happen. But no, she decided to stick by her husband and care for him throughout the sickness and whatnot. And the princess here, future queen, recognizes the effort and the person, which was her friend at first, everything that she's done for the king. But before I get to the next scene here, I'm going to skip over. There's a lot of stuff that happens with the kids. We now see where the relationship between the kids of both of these houses, if you want to call it that, they're setting up the next storyline. This episode is pretty much the end of the storyline of the king, and it will move on forwards here with the children. And there's certain scenes here with the kids. I'm not gonna go into that right away into my review here, but yeah, they're setting up the next phase of this storytelling. So okay, I don't know who this woman is. She has a short 15-20 second scene here. And like I said, I haven't read the books. So she knows something's going on in the castle. And I don't know. They're setting up something else that's going to be behind the scenes, I'm guessing, in the castle. So I just wanted to mention that here. There are things that are happening in the show that I'm hoping will lead to something bigger later on. But as of now, I don't know who she is yet. And she's talking to some of the personnel of the castle. So she has an ear in the castle. She has, I don't know if we can call it spies, but this is going to lead to something else later on. And we're getting to the last scene of the show here, or the episode, I should say, where the king is still rambling. He's with his wife here, and I'm not sure if he thinks he's talking to his daughter. And the queen here is also a little bit confused as to the speech or the dialogue that the king is talking about here. He's talking about the Song of the Fire and Ice. And she misinterprets certain things from this discussion here and thinks that her son, their son that they had together, is the prince that was promised and who's going to unite the kingdom. So you can see here that this is going to lead to some conflict later on. So I'm looking forward to that. But he's thinks he's talking to his daughter and saying things, and she's doesn't know exactly what the king's talking about or her husband's talking about, but she takes pieces here and there, and oh, this is for our son and stuff. So it's a little bit confusing because everybody's not on the same page here, and they're just taking stuff left, right, and center, and I'm anxious to see where this is going to go in the next couple of episodes. And this is truly the last scene where the king's all by himself and he says, he no more, that's it. He he doesn't want to he doesn't want to go on anymore. He's not that he's giving up, but his journey is complete here and he's just like his last words, his hand is up in the air and he says like no more. So, yeah, this is my review for this episode. I love it. I'm loving this show. Please watch it. It's if you want good shows, you gotta watch the good shows if you want more of the stuff. So that's my opinion today. And, you know, please, how can I say this? Please give me a like and come back and watch further reviews of shows. Keep watching my channel. Please like and subscribe. And I'm really looking forward to your comments down below. Thank you. See you next time.